It is 7 p.m. At this time, we're going to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Orion Township Zoning Board of Appeals, scheduled for this date at this time. Please call the roll.
Dan Durham.
Here.
Don Walker.
Here.
Mike Flood.
Here.
Diane Danaskis here. Alec Turigian.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Next, we have the minutes from our meeting of June 23rd, 2025. Any of the board members have any concerns, questions, or ideas up toward the motion? Mr. Flood.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes for 6/23/2025 ZBA regular meetings as presented.
A motion on the floor with support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next, we are going to, we have our agenda review and approval. We have six cases tonight. They're all more similar than any bunch I've ever seen in one place before, but we'll figure it out. Does any of the board have any concerns, questions before we get started with this?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
A motion with support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We will move forward. Now, before we move forward, we have a pretty heavy audience tonight. You all know one another. I would ask that you keep the communication between yourselves to a minimum. You'd be surprised how we can hear things from out there, and it tends to be distracting. And if you are here for a particular case, and that case is finished and you are satisfied and leave, please leave out into the foyer. Then you can talk to whoever you want for as long as you want, and we're still clear to have our meeting. When public comment comes, we are going to call the case, ask our petitioner to come up. He or she will give us their information. Then we will call for public comment. You get 1 3-minute shot at public comment. 3 minutes by our high-tech timer. And at the end of that time, I will mention thank you for coming in, or your time has expired. Then the next person can come up. Now, having said that, I need to say one more thing. We have a lot of people, and you are all here with, again, generally the same thing on your mind. If we can avoid having 10 people get in line 6 times to use 3 minutes a time to say the exact same thing, that would be helpful. However, this packet is all the stuff that has come into the office, the letters, the various petitions, and some folks have been asked to be opted out of the petition. It's been noted on here. This is part of the record. Whether you hear every word of this from this podium or not, it will be part of the record of these cases moving forward. So you don't have to worry that what you said will not be paid attention to, because it's right there and it's ready to go. With that, first case, AB 2025-15, McLeish Building Incorporated, vacant property north of Unit 32 Bernia Lane, Sidwell numbers 0904 402 033 and 034, units 33 and 34. It was postponed from the June 9th meeting of this year. The petitioner is seeking 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78. Number 1 is a 6.07 foot side yard setback variance from the required 20 feet to construct unit 33, 13.93 feet from existing unit 32's covered porch, 20.19 from existing foundation wall. Number 2 is a 2-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on unit 33, 28 feet from the rear property line. And number 3 is a 2.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on unit 34, 27.5 feet from the rear property line. Applicant or presenter, come on up, introduce yourself, please. In front of you, at the bottom of that mic, there should be a button. Can you see if that's green?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. Tip it in towards you a little, and you've got the floor.
Is that okay? All right. Well, good evening, board members and residents. My name's Dan McLeish from McLeish Building, here representing our family company for the variance request in front of you. beginning with Unit 33. And just to step back a little bit, the last time we were here a few years ago, we listened, went back, we had a 40-foot wide unit previously. So we went back with our architect, we shaved approximately 3 feet off the units to have a 37-foot wide unit for that. And so that's what we redid the site plans, and that's what's presented in front of you now. And as we did bring this aerial, can you back up now? No, the whole overall aerial. We brought this overall aerial in tonight just to show you that what we're presenting was very consistent with what was already built in the neighborhood. And that's why we show this aerial, and I don't know if everybody can see it there. We do have a hard copy in the back if someone would like to see it more.
We have it in front of us here.
Yeah, okay, I was just mentioning to the audience as well if they want to see
okay, I'm
something.
sorry.
That's it, no worry. Or even yourselves too. But so, yeah, so we're here for a variance request. I mean, it's about as straightforward as kind of can see. Some of the units in the neighborhood, we physically surveyed on this drawing, the unit pictures, the numbers in red or pink, whatever color you like to call them there. There's 17 units with a 25-foot side yard setback or less. And then there's 10 units that have a less than 20-foot setback in the neighborhood. So what we're presenting is very consistent with what's already been built. And so I just was trying to show that point that way to where if these were probably built again today, I don't know how many units would be able to be built there. So I just wanted to point that out to the members if did not realize that at the time, so.
Do you, if I can ask, do you know why the setback differences have happened? You say some of them are less than the 30?
Well, I asked staff, and no one had an answer really for that. I wanted, from memories, there might have been a rule change with setbacks in the township. And if you would take the side porches, if you would take the dimension from what we're proposing, or anyway, just pick a unit and you go from the main body of the basement to main body of basement, your dimension is quite large in difference. When you're going porch to porch, now we're shrinking the dimension. So I think that probably previously the units were permitted because they were just, the dimension was taken from the main body of the building to main body of the building, and they didn't take into account the side porches.
What would you have to do to meet variance ordinance requirements and not be here for a variance? How would you have to change what you have planned to do?
It would basically be unbuildable that way. You'd have a home that, I don't know exactly the dimension offhand, but if we just back that off and we use, a 25-foot wide home versus 37 feet. So they're basically unbuildable then. So that's why we, our typical unit that we built in the past and it's been very successful was a 40-foot unit. We came in front of the board, we discussed, dimensional changes to it, so we went through and we shaved what we could out and what we feel is still a saleable unit that would be a comfortable home for a family there.
Thank you. Board members.
I have a question. Are they unbuildable in the fashion that's been presented in the ranch fashion? And could they be built in a 1.5 story or 2 story layout?
It's a very good question. You still have, okay, the market is a first floor master. So when you have a first floor master, you've got master bedroom or primary, whatever you want to call it. You've got a family room. You've got a kitchen nook, might not even have a dining room. And then, you have a library or another room. You factor in a laundry room. You factor in a minimal 2-car garage, which we did. We originally had on these plans, we were trying to work in being a golf course community, work in a area to park a golf cart, because I drive through the neighborhood and I see, a lot of golf carts in there. So, but to answer your question, it just, when you take all the pieces of the puzzle, even at minimal sizes, it becomes uncomfortable to where, if we're gonna do this, we need to be able to sell them. So that's, It's, now if these were, townhomes down in Royal Oak, and we're going all up, where we've built a lot of those townhomes where we had a garage underneath. We might have had the family room on the first floor. Second floor was a couple bedrooms. Third floor was a couple, other rooms. Yes, that's definitely doable that way, but you're changing the whole demographics of, kind of the neighborhood, and we were trying to keep the continuity of it there.
I'm sorry, how would you describe the demographics of your, your current residents and your potential residents?
Empty nesters.
Are there any other ranch buildings in the community right now?
Not that I know of, no.
So if you know, are they all 1.5 or 2-story units?
Correct.
And so have you done a market analysis to conclude that a 1.5 or a 2-story unit is, as you said, not sellable?
Well, they still have first floor masters. So we basically have the footprint, the square footage is basically on the footprint is basically the same level. I mean, we've built quite a few residents in empty nester, and the second floor is almost obsolete. No one really uses it that way. So in adding rooms up on the second floor, it's not that much more costly. It's not, if you look at the renders we have tall roof lines to match what's there, and it proceeds to look like, a 1.5-story home. And that roof line is so large in there, we can fit bedrooms in there. What we're proposing, like, we've built that same building with rooms upstairs. Like, we just stack the stairs on top and go up. Like, our truss layout's the same layout is what we're proposing that way. So it's really the first floor master. That's our market.
So without the variances, you cannot have a first floor master, is that?
Correct. I mean, we have not gone and, okay, if we get rid of the family room, we'd be taking the family room, we're just in conversation here, the family room might end up being half the size. Something's gonna give. You're gonna have a kitchen with a little nook, and then you'll have a decent sized family. You're not gonna be able to, it won't work. We've built enough of these to kind of see that, it's not about spending the money on an architect and making it work out. I mean, that's not what we're afraid of doing by no means. It's just, we've built them and we know what folks are looking for, We've done enough of these over the years that, that's basically how we feel about that.
And I guess similar question off that, if the layout is rotated at all, can you construct them with one of these 3 variances, for example, or are all 3, the rear and the side, required? I guess for this one, it's just a side and a rear.
Right, correct. And with the rear, the rear, we're showing a covered porch on it. Could we take the covered porch off? Sure. Could we put a patio down at grade that doesn't require a permit? Sure, we could. But again, we're trying to make them saleable, to the market. And, having a nice covered porch is one of the, items and selling points that, owners want. I mean, we don't want to come in and start something and then it just sits. I mean, that's not good for anybody. That's not good for us. It's not good for the residents. It's not good for the township. But I totally understand your point, but we're basically taking Lego pieces and they all got to kind of fit is what it is. I mean, we've shaved the laundry room down. I mean, if we had a bigger footprint, we'd have a bigger laundry room. We'd have a bigger space in the garage for a golf cart that way. We'd have a bigger back, covered porch that way.
I just have one other question. Before you purchased the lots, and they were built with some of these lesser, on this photograph here, some of the lesser side variances.
Which one were you?
I'm just looking at the purple measurements on.
Oh, okay, sure.
This one.
Okay.
So some of them, and you already mentioned it, some of them they range from 20 to, it looks like some of them are 12. Is that because of the way that the prior owner built the initial ones, or what's the reasoning that there's some lesser side setbacks?
Yes, because they were, the way they were originally built, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Because like, I don't know if you can see all those, like you said, like, you know, sorry. It's like one of them's like 12.9 feet between the units, you know, for instance. Now, others are larger, but 12.9 is probably one of the, yeah, 12.9 was one of the smallest ones, at least between them, 13.76. You know, there's some in the middle teens, 16, 15 feet, 17 feet.
Is the measurements there, is that because of the curvature of the road, or is that, I guess what, if you know, why are some of them set at 20, some 21? Some are greater, some are lesser.
No, I would say those are all pretty much where the road's straight, so you're not like in that, you know, where it's kind of bending up at the beginning of the neighborhood, you know, but no, that's a very good point. No, it's where the road's pretty much, the units are parallel with the road.
Let me ask you a question I believe I already know the answer to. Have you or your company or representatives attempted to work with the residents at all in the community to determine what, if anything, they might have on their mind that could make this work for you? Because you've got a heavy presence tonight. There was a bunch of other things that came in, but it's not all negative. There are some people that would actually like to see this build-out be done. So I think more than any reason, they can rest and not wonder what may be coming down the road.
Originally, I was planning on having a meeting, and I had to table it because I had some medical appointments with my daughter out of state. So I was planning on having a meeting. Due to time, we didn't do it. Spoke with the HOA president a few times about it. More than open to go back to do that, you know, have no issue with that at all. I mean, we did that previously. There was a little bit of clashing between residents. And I don't know, I get kind of turned off when people start arguing over stuff that, I don't know, I just, you know, I kind of feel bad people don't have joy in their lives. You know, I mean, but I'm definitely open to going back if the board would rather see us do that and we table this and go back and meet with the residents again. I have no issue with that.
I have no idea how the board feels about it. It's just something that came to me.
Sure.
Thank you.
I have one follow-up question. Looking at this,
No, Mr. King was just mentioning that we met with the board president and, you know, we had different feedback from the residents. Correct, yeah, we showed them the elevations. I think some of the tone of some of the people for and against changed once we had the overhead with the, no, Melly, the large overhead. We showed them some of the elevations, go back to it. Because they had some concerns on what the units were gonna look like, but I had told them that we're here for dimensions, not what they look like. But, so we presented them with some color renderings to the board.
Thank you.
on this image, and I know right now we're talking about units 33 and 34, it looks like there's a 13, you're requesting a 13.93 between unit 33 and the next one, but on the other side, it looks like it's 20. I mean, what's the reason that it can't be built with the 20 on the side setback there?
On the setback between unit 33 and 32?
Yes, if that's the one where the red line there is, I would assume it is 32.
Yeah, we basically started there and just worked our way to the south, or to the north towards the entranceway. I mean, if we go 20 there, then we just we basically looked at, you know, if you just kind of, I'd say you had a blank slate, right? And you went and just laid these in and you looked at them overall, how they would fit in consistently with the rest of the already built neighborhood. And that's how we felt that they laid in there. So we were just trying to keep them all as equidistant as possible. Those, like, for instance, between units 33 and 38 that we were proposing. So we're just trying to keep them as equal as possible there.
Is there any way that, I guess, or if you know, would it be less disturbance to the already existing homes if, I guess, the two in the middle were squeezed more so that the setback between the new units was smaller and then the outside units, then the side setback would be increased to kind of conform more closer to a 20-foot setback?
So, great point. And I want to believe that we talked with staff previously about that. And that was one of the things, like, between the, let's say, between units 34 and 35, we showed 20 feet. Like, if we made that, like, say, 18 feet, and then between 36 and 37, we shrunk that 2 feet. Now we're 2 feet farther on either end of the existing units, you know, so that there's a couple more feet between there.
So that is possible?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like the board is thinking it over. Let's ask the gentleman to surrender the mic briefly and start some public comment. Anybody that came specifically to speak to this, come on up. Grab your 3 minutes.
There's a pointer here if anybody needs it.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Rick Stein. I reside in 63 Bernaya, Lake Orion. I'd like to address McLeish's replies to the Zoning Board of Appeals application responses of June 6, 2025. McLeish Building replied under item 7 of all the application responses, and I quote from McLeish's responses, "Two-story designs are not as appealing and are not designed for empty nesters." This written and recorded statement is incorrect. As proof of this incorrect statement, in the past 2 years, all 5 two-story condos in Royal Troon that have been listed for sale were sold, most within 1 week, and some the very first day they were listed, with prices as high as $615,000. 3 of the 5 condos sold at $600,000 or above, with a mean price in our neighborhood of those 5 condos at $562,000. Please note that all these condos were sold to empty nesters. To say that empty nesters only want ranch condos is not accurate. The master deed of Royal Troon intended that the variances and lot sizes were to be plotted for two-story condos with walkouts, not ranch condos. To blemish our community with ranch condos was not the intent of the planned condominium community. Every plot in the master deed up there was designed for two-story condos with walkouts. To attract qualified buyers and to maintain the attractiveness and integrity of Royal Troon, in addition to protecting the values of existing condos, the community does not need ranch condos to move forward with a build-out when there are more options for more harmonious condominiums. If you consider that all the condominiums in Royal Troon are two-story with walkout lower levels, you can easily see why these ranch-style condos don't fit. As you can see from the attendance this evening, we have many residents in attendance who are very passionate about preserving the variances, architecture, beauty, and integrity and property values of our small condo community. We are all in favor of a build-out, but vastly opposed the variance changes in non-compliant architecture McLeish is proposing. We ask the zoning board to please consider the impact of the variance reductions and non-compliant architecture that McLeish Building is proposing. Mr. McLeish mentioned this evening that he has never met with the HOA, and that's absolutely correct. The president of our board of directors does not represent the HOA. We would have appreciated a meeting with Mr. McLeish before this endeavor was taken on. As a personal note, I would like to suggest that McLeish Building give consideration to the opposition that many in our community have towards the condominiums that wish to be built as they relate to variances, harmonious architecture of the existing condos. I ask if Mr. McLeish would be willing to rethink their position on single-story condos and come up with condos that are compliant with the variances in architectural design of the remaining building sites in accordance with our master deed. Thank you. How close was I to 3 minutes?
You went just a little over.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dan Owens. I'm 80 Bernaya Lane, and I'm right located next to Lot 41. I'm also totally for a build-out. I'm just not for this particular build-out. All proposed lots of this has a common footprint, okay? The footprint was to accommodate all the square footage with existing condos the way they were. They were to have reasonable space in between the condos. And then along with the master deed, we assumed that, again, they would be like buildings for us to build. And in my opinion, all of this seemed to be ignored. Our current condominium, by the way, is designed as a side view, which means the architecture and landscaping of the porches, windows, side view, and all the buildings are on the side of the building, not a front view, not front of the, not on the street, okay? The proposed design is a total different from our condos. In addition to the ranch, unlike the current condos, is designed as a front view. What that means basically is from the front of my condo, all I will see is the side of that ranch, which is a sort of a boring wall. Okay, on top of that, the proposal is then to take that wall and move it even closer to my condo. So my question is, how would any of you like to look out your front window every day and see a wall? Because that's what I'm faced with if this goes through. Thank you for your time.
You. Anybody else? Thank you. Shift it back to the board. Board members. Oh, come on up.
Hi, I'm Diane Van Slambrock, and I live in 113 Brunaya. The only thing that I wanted to say was Mr. McLeish mentioned that empty nesters don't want a first floor master bedroom. Well, I live in a unit that is a first floor master bedroom, and it has one guest bedroom upstairs, a walkout basement. I am adjacent to a condo that my neighbor lives in that has a first floor master bedroom, master bath, and it has 2 bedrooms upstairs. So I'm saying that I agree that people who are reaching a certain age would like a first floor master bedroom, but if they have a guest, what prevents them from going upstairs to a guest bedroom? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time?
I'm Dan Kowalski. I live at 116 Sand Hills Lane, and I've been living there nearly 20 years. I built that unit. My wife and I did. I know this hearing is to address variance requests, but before I get to that point, I'd like to address the objections of ranches being built. First of all, Section 18 of our master deed allows a successor developer to build whatever they want. Secondly, the ranch design is in demand. You know that. Just south of us, the Ridgewood condo complex is under construction as we speak. All of them are high-end ranches, and I'm sure they'll sell like hotcakes. McLeish is addressing that demand and should be allowed to. Royal Troon is over 25 years old, and in 25 years, the market can change. I think you would all agree with that. Thirdly, many here object to the ranches not fitting in or devaluing our community. I'm sure you've done your due diligence and reviewed the 3D renditions, the recent ones that McLeish provided, and there's no question that they would fit in. They're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. Even the opposition was a little surprised at it, and some have even taken their name off, as you mentioned, Dan, taken their name off of the petition. Regarding the variance requests, in Royal Troon, there are only 2 sets of buildings that even meet the 30-foot setback on the side yards. There's at least 9 sets of buildings that have less than 20 feet between them. 4 of those have less than 15 and a half feet. McLeish is seeking variances on the golf course side of Bernaya, and those variances average 18.4 feet on the side yard setbacks. Currently, on the same side of that street, there are 4 sets of condo buildings with an average of 15.4 feet, 3 feet less. That said, there are 2 variances that they are seeking, one being 13.8 feet, and that's predicated on reusing an existing basement that will be unearthed for construction. The second is at 13.9 feet and has already been discussed. However, there is already precedent set in Bernaya, as there's one at 12.9 feet, and there's also one in Sand Hills at 13.6 feet. Regarding rear setbacks, I'll give you one example of a building on Bernaya that isn't even close to the 30-foot requirement. Unit 39 is only 18 feet from the rear setback, 3.5 feet if you include the deck. So in summary, there has been numerous variance requests granted in Rotrun over the years, which I could argue have not been uniform at all. But we all here have been living in that community contently with those variances as they've been issued. So I think it seems unfair to not allow these to be approved, as they are consistent, if not better, than what exists on the golf course side of Bernaya. Consequently, I would ask the support of the ZBA to make the hard call and do what is right and what is good for not only Rotrun, but the township for obvious reasons. Thank you.
Anything additional at this time? All right, let's go back to the board. Sir, come back to the mic if you would. Ladies and gentlemen, questions?
It was mentioned that one of these had an existing basement that was going to be unearthed. Which unit is that?
That's, 1 second. I should know. 47 and 48.
And then a follow-up question to an earlier question I asked, but if these are shifted slightly on this image here to where maybe the middle unit has less than a 20 side setback, then wouldn't that result in possibly the 33 and 34 and the 37 and 38 not requiring a side setback, a variance of the side setback?
Okay, so between 32 and 33, we're for, 1 second, please.
I can simplify it
Oh,
too.
okay.
So 33 and 34 here, you're looking for a 6.07 foot side variance. And if that was moved 20 feet from unit 32, then you would not require a side variance, is that correct? And you
Right.
could still build it as you have planned.
Correct, but then we're going to be very tight between the other proposed units that we're showing. And then it's not going to be as, harmonious to the streetscape as you look at it when you're driving down the street. We'd have these proposed units tighter together that way.
But right now, for example, between 33 and 32 is 13.93, but between 34 and 35 is 20. So you'd still have a 13.93 between 34 and 35 if there was no variance on 33 and 34.
True. In the way we went off of this is we looked at like the front corner of the garages where the garages touch and then the rears. And the way we laid them out is like, let's just pretend almost like the side porches on the existing units aren't there. And we're just trying to make it look consistent along the streetscape is what we were trying to do. But I mean, we could squeeze a couple feet from between 33 and 32 instead of a, 6-foot variance request, we went to like, say, a 4. And then our request between 35 and 34 went to 18 feet. We're kind of a little bit splitting hairs, but I see your point, of that. We definitely could do that there. There also is a water main between 33 and 32 as well.
Do you know where the water main is located?
We tried looking for it with the township, and we vacated looking for it because I was trying to actually find out if that actually was installed.
But if between 32 and 33, it's 20 feet, then the water main wouldn't be an issue, correct?
Correct. Long as it's not there, so we don't think that they actually installed it across the golf course.
And then I just have one follow-up question. On the rear variances for both 33 and 34, the main residence, can it be built without that variance?
Which numbers did you say? I'm sorry?
For the ones we're talking about, 33 and 34, number 2 and 3 here, the 2-foot rear yard setback variance and the 2.5-foot rear yard setback variance, that's only for an optional covered porch, but otherwise the main residence can still be built without that?
Right, correct.
Okay, thank you.
We'd like to still have the porches in there just for, to sell the units, as an option for the proposed residents.
What's the
Potential
current
residents.
dimensions of the?
I'm sorry?
What are the dimensions of the proposed covered porches?
One second, please.
And if you don't have the dimensions, that's fine, but could the covered porch be built that's just 2 feet or 2.5 feet smaller than what you have planned?
Sorry, it takes me a second. It's been a while, so is it 10, 12, yeah, we got 6. Yes, we could remove 2 feet. The flip side of it is kind of what we came back with was what we kind of wanted to build because the way the furniture lays out, they're not an overly large cover porch. And we also looked at, on the overhead, it's the farthest point of anywhere in the development abutting the golf course. It's all treed. It really wasn't, hurting anybody that way.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker, I'm sorry.
Whoever I am. Question for Mr. Goodlow. This was originally a PUD, is that correct? Yes. It still is a PUD? Yes. When the PUD was originally granted, were individual variances granted to each of these these constructions, or did it come as part and parcel of the PUD?
Well, there's a long history with this development with setbacks and what's designed by the PUD. Some of them were built to that PUD, some of them weren't. We do have several cases in the past where it has gone before the planning commission. I don't think it's on here, but the original PUD, it's really foggy on what we're looking at. for the
Perhaps because
setbacks now.
it is so old.
Yes, and I was actually looking through PUD documents right now, and I'm seeing different setbacks for different lots and everything, so there's a lot that goes into this.
And I think that's, I don't want to speak for the people that live there, but part of the charm of that neighborhood to me is that this is not cookie cutter. Everything is a little bit different. The setbacks vary from one unit to another unit, so it looks a little bit different, at least to my untrained eye. I'm not an architect, an engineer, any of that stuff. All right, thank you.
Ms. McLeish, as the applicant on this, you have a couple of things you can do. You can say, this is what I brought, this is what I want to vote on. Or you can make some changes as long as you don't go bigger in any dimension. Or you can, and I don't want to see this happen, but if it happens for the right reasons, or you can pull everything back and rework your lines and see where that brings you. Those are the three, and only you can decide those. I've seen people go each way. nope, this is what I brought, vote on it. Sometimes they're successful, other times they're not. I have no feel for what your situation is here. But those are just things to think about while this rolls on. Board members, Mr. Floyd, do you have anything for this gentleman? Ms. Danaskis?
I'm seeing 2 units here that are, I can't tell if they are 2-unit condos. They are significantly smaller. It would be units 43, 44, and units, well, sure, thank you. I'm seeing 2 units that appear significantly smaller and a different design. One would be unit 43, 44.
Correct, yeah,
Tell
3
if
and
it's a
4,
double
5.
unit, or if it's just, but it's an unusual and it's smaller. And then there's another one at the end of the other road that appears to be similar. Smaller, different design.
There's a lot of older plans that are there. And obviously you can see, I see the ones where you don't have any green space between the driveways on 43 and 44. And I see what you're referring to as that footprint. So, and what you're saying is I actually today thought about laying our unit over the top of these, just so that everybody could kind of see that
I'm
our.
sorry, I didn't-
I actually was thinking today I should have laid some, I was trying not to get complicated with the drawings.
Sure.
And I wish I probably would have laid our proposed over all of the existing, so that you could see that our footprint that we're proposing is smaller than 80% of the units that way. But again, I was just trying not to complicate things, and, I know what I'm looking at, but trying to portray it to everybody else, I was trying to keep it about as simple as we could. That's why we did the overall aerial here, just to kind of try to, I could have added more dimensions and all that, but it just was getting really foggy. I mean, there's a lot of dimensions would have been on it.
Thank you. I think my point was that there are some units that were built smaller that seem like yours,
Correct.
the same as yours, but then fit into the lots.
I guess, like to mention with one of the residents getting up and talking about price point and this and that, and I totally understand their point, and, well, the last 5 units that sold were from, 500 to 600,000, 610,000. Just because it's on the record, I don't want to say the exact price point where we would start, but it'd be significantly higher than what is sold recently. And that's not that we make more money, we make less money. Everybody knows the cost of things today. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm just saying, our starting sale prices, like, if we could sell these at these numbers, I'd be elated that way. But ours are gonna be, even if this is approved and we go start this, I'm still 100% nervous, just for what things cost today, that way. We're a small company, we put a lot of efforts, my sister, myself, we're plenty busy on other projects. Thankfully, the good Lord's been good to us and our family, and, we're busy. I'm happy we are. If this gets approved, great, we'll go there, we'll finish it and get on with life, and hopefully all the residents are happy. We're very accommodating. You could call any municipality we've worked in. I don't know of one municipality we've ever had a complaint by anybody. We would never want anybody to have a complaint. We put a lot into we're on the jobs, we see things through. My sister sells, we meet all the residents. Everything we sell is like word of mouth. We don't advertise. We have a sign in front of jobs just so, trades and suppliers can find the address. It's thankfully, it's how it's been for us. So, but, sale price would be way more than what this is, that way. And like I said previously, when we were talking, to add a second floor to these, the unit's already set up. So if someone wants a second floor and wants to pay that extra cost, we can drop 2 rooms right up top. They're already laid out for that. And that's being efficient with building and whatnot. And the flip side too is we've also designed these in a way that one of the biggest things is the HOA or the residents know is, the monthly dues. That's the maintenance on the buildings. We had dormers on these, which I love the look of the dormers. But we pulled that off from talking with the HOA and the residents just for sake of added maintenance down the road. I believe they even took a lot of the dormers off the existing units when they re-roofed them as well. So, and, you know, we factor in materials that are hopefully as maintenance-free as possible for this, you know, that way. So, you know, I see a note in here, and I read through a couple of letters and kind of put them away, because I just, and, you know, building cheap homes, these aren't cheap homes by no means, so. And I know we're here for variance, for dimensional variance and not what they look like, but I just thought I'd touch on that. I don't know if that, you know, weighs on your decision or not, but, you know, hopefully I answered that.
Let me make one statement if I can. The residents and people that have written in, but the residents that are here, they have a right to their opinion, even if it's wrong. You are in your business. You're going to be more current, not saying they're wrong, but saying they can be wrong, it doesn't matter. You're more current on what sells and for how much it sells and things of that nature, but that's got nothing to do with what we're here for tonight. What we're here for tonight is see what it is about your land that does not allow you to stay within ordinance requirements to do what you want to do. People believe constantly that we have a focus like this. We don't. We're a laser beam that shoots out that window. It's the land, what's wrong, is there a problem, did you cause it, what needs to happen. So you're going to be thinking differently than the residents are. And I don't want to necessarily start a flood of counterpoint now that comes up to tell us how wrong you are. I want to stay on track. We're almost an hour, we haven't grabbed any of the meat of this yet. We have to, board members, if they have questions, we'll get rolling here, but we've got to get moving with trying to get something figured out here. Again, you have some options. If you make up your mind that you want to take any of them, you can do that, or we can just keep talking. Nobody's been hurt yet. Board members.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Flood.
when we decide these cases, we look for what the practical difficulty is. That's number one.
Yes.
And knowing the history of this, I know you're not the original developer,
Correct?
and because I know the original developer was, and then we did this PUD. In fact, I believe this was the first PUD ever done in this township, when they implemented that type of zoning. What I find interesting is, a couple years ago, when we first started this, units 47 and 48 was that basement was already poured, and it never got constructed. And my understanding was it was left open, and the neighbors wanted that thing filled in for safety reasons. If this had been completed back at the time, we wouldn't be here today, but that's not the case. We still got these empty lots here. So as far as practical difficulty, in my opinion, just being one member of the board, it's not self-created by this developer. It was created back during the PUD and what they've inherited from that day. That's one criteria I always look at, practical difficulty.
Thank you.
That's it right now.
Do we have any additional public comment? Anybody think of something they wish they'd have said? Come on up, please. And introduce yourself if you would. We're being recorded and we have to do the best we can.
Diane Van Slambrook. I just have never been clear, how many bedrooms are there in each of these units?
Please, we normally don't do back and forth, but you know better than we do.
Yes, there's 2 bedrooms.
Thank you, ma'am. Quick, come on up.
The way I understand it,
Introduce yourself briefly.
Dan Owens, the way I understand it is that if we were to build, if they would build the 2-story, the original 2 stories, we would not be sitting here today, because there'd be no need or no requirement, okay? What makes it a requirement is the fact that they're putting in the ranches. And the ranches is what's causing the problem regarding the additional space they need, because it's a total different layout. So the builder is creating this problem because he's putting a ranch inside instead of staying with the original footprint that was designed for the story and a half. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Ms. McLeish, hearing what this gentleman just said, in your opinion, is he correct or not?
Wrong. No, he's not correct. He's
Please
wrong.
tell me.
Excuse me?
Please tell me.
Just from visual, I might be able to pull the drawings out, but I'll just look at the pointer real quick if you don't mind. So, where are we at? So see that existing unit? See what we're proposed? If you just visually would take what we're proposed and lay it over that, these are a larger footprint than this. And by doing that, you're juggling now. Now you might not necessarily need a variance, say, off here, it throws the geometry all off. So the existing is a larger footprint than what we're proposed.
Thank you. Board members, feelings on the matter? We want to move to a motion. Do we have any additional questions for this gentleman? Mr. Trigian?
Yeah, one additional question. This one, it looks like unit 43. Is that 2 units there, or is that 1 unit there, if you know?
2 units.
But so for example, 39 and 40 look much larger. I mean, are there varying sizes throughout the community?
Correct. And from memory, I believe 43 and 44, that might have been the units that only had a second floor master bedroom. They did not have any bedroom downstairs. And I could be completely wrong. I don't know if there's a residence here that could answer for sure. I don't have all the old plans from back in the 90s with me.
And I know we're here for only the dimensions, just out of curiosity for what can be built here. 39 and 40, it looks like that's the majority from this bird's eye view of what's there. In this space, could you build something like, for example, units 39 and 40?
39 and 40, that particular footprint is larger than what we're proposing. So what we're proposing is a smaller footprint than the existing.
Okay, thank you.
Where I believe we are in the ceremony here is you are going to have to decide what it is you want to do, like I mentioned earlier. Go forward with the requests that you have, make some moves on the fly, which in my personal opinion does not serve you or us well, because I do not want to see you get outside and say, I just agreed to what? Because then we've got a problem. Perhaps Mr. Goodloe would be willing to help us adjust these on the fly. I don't know. I'm not speaking for him, if he decided to alter these. And I don't know, even if you do alter them, how it would play on the whole outcome here. I don't know how this is going to go. The board has been abnormally quiet. Normally, we have more questions than this. So I don't know which way this would go, but you're the one that has to make the move now. We've gone through public comment. People have come up and had their say. We listen to them. We respect them for coming here and having an opinion they're willing to share, but that in and of itself does not drive our decision. Please.
Yeah, respectfully, we'd like to have the board vote on this for what.
Vote on what you came for.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Mr. Goodloe.
I'm trying to look, and I'm looking through the system, and I'm seeing a lot of, as-built. We do a building, we did an as-built. I apologize. So I'm looking through, a lot of the old building permits and documents, and I'm looking for the as-bills. They're certified and signed by a licensed engineer that tell you the property distance. And I don't understand, none of these I've found is 30 feet yet. So it could kind of just curious on where it changed down the line for this to get approved as under 30 feet, because I haven't found any, and I just started, I've been through like 3 or 4, but I haven't found one that actually meets the 30 feet that would be required on the side. When we talk about the backyards, we always allow decks to encroach into rear yard setbacks typically. You're talking a foot or 2, but I can't find anything that shows these buildings that they actually meet the original PUD requirements. It's mind-boggling.
So assuming you're right, you normally are with these things, what do you suggest?
Oh, I suggest you got to look at the property for the practical difficulty of what we're looking at, Obviously, I keep the content of the neighborhood and the character. It's a tough situation, and I don't envy the situation this board's in, but as you can look, I mean, because I was looking at his document here, and I'm seeing all these 20, 22, 22, and typically, sometimes you can't really get that measurement correct, so I went in and I'm looking at civil engineer documents that are kind of concurring that, so one thing I know about standards is, do I have the same property rights as others in the vicinity? And that's always one of the big ones, obviously, self-creation, difficulty, and, he's afforded the same property right as others in the vicinity, if you ask me. So I'm not a board member, that's up to you, gentlemen and ladies, so that's my 2 cents on it, but I'm still looking, and I just can't seem to locate any that actually conform to the original PUD setback requirement.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Flood?
following Mr. Goodlow's lead there, this body has no say on the development of the PUD. That was a planning commission, board of trustees venue. We're here strictly due to setback variances. I know some of the residents were concerned about single-story, two-story. That's not upon us as this body, and that puts us in a difficult situation. My question to the developer here, did you show a rendering to all the residents there of what your single-story proposal would look like? Have they all had an opportunity to see if that's compatible with their neighborhood?
We proposed them to the HOA, to the HOA members, so they had that, and I believe they passed them, circulate them throughout the community for anybody that wanted to see them. We also do have hard boards here, and we do have them on the overhead that we could present.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was conveyed to those residents.
Yes.
That seems to be quite a concern on their.
Correct. And some of it could have been too is, it's like you get this in the mail, what's going on? And there's no colored rendering, there's no plan, I get them for myself. Other properties we have, I get them and I'm like, well, what's this? So I look into it. We've got other development properties and other people are developing it, and I get the letters as well. And I think maybe that possibly could have stirred a little bit of, tension amongst the neighbors that way. But yes, sir, we did drop them off to them.
All right, this is kind of out of the ordinary run, but I'm going to do it anyway. Is there there's somebody out there that was fairly high up in the HOA? Do I remember? Okay, can you come up and answer a question for me? Give him the mic for just a minute. Now, the question I have is I have seen information that talks about the HOA. I have seen information that talks about the board of directors. I've seen information that says, yes, he is speaking for the HOA, but not, or for the board of directors, but not the HOA. In my experience, the board of directors is the HOA, and they speak for the people. Is that wrong?
Well, that's a good question. I asked the same question. The letter that I wrote to you folks as part of your packet was a requirement of the lawsuit that was filed the last time McLeish tried to build this out. That was a requirement. Verbatim, I had to submit that to you as president of the HOA. Okay, so, but that is a good question. I think there was another letter that basically said that I'm not speaking for the HOA, but the people that said that had no idea why that letter had to be written. They were out of school. They didn't know why that letter was being written.
Possibly some honest confusion.
Yeah, but regardless, to your question, Mike, yes, the renderings did go out I made sure they went out to everybody. They had ample time to review them. And it was, generally speaking, I think it was a shock to a number of people how well these buildings fit into our community. And personally, I think this is a no-brainer for you, for the board, because McLeish, if he built the two-story units, which are the majority of the units, the footprint is obviously bigger. The variances are much smaller than what he's presenting. And now he's presenting a unit that looks, as you all saw from the renderings, looks very nice. And he has renderings right next to existing buildings. You could drive through there and you might not even notice it was a ranch. And he's done that in another development in Rochester that they blended in quite well. So with landscaping and all that, I know people don't want to look at a wall, but I think there are other people that don't want to. Our units have a sideway orientation, and a lot of people complain they're looking at somebody eating their breakfast while they're eating their breakfast. So there's pluses and minuses, right? But to me, it's a no-brainer. I've been in the development for 20 years. We need this built out. We have aging buildings. It costs a lot to maintain the buildings. It would be great to have the additional HOA fees being paid by that. These buildings would be great for the township. There's no taxpayers other than the taxes on vacant lots. That's not good for the township either. So, to me, it's common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, we got a case to vote on.
Somebody way in the back, I think, had a hand up.
Come on up.
Rick Stein again, 63 Brunaya. There is a difference between the Board of Directors and the HOA. The Board of Directors is elected by the HOA to conduct the business within the condo complex, i.e. contract lawn services, snow plowing, maintenance requests. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of the HOA. Had they been, if this was true, they would have submitted a questionnaire to all the members. I believe there are 64 condos in our complex. Each member could have been polled as far as their position goes. So just because an individual on the board says something, it does not represent the HOA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to close public comment on this case. Board. Very good.
To the extent that you can tell us, what was the scope of the lawsuit? Was it between your company and just the HOA?
It was between the LLC that owns the lots and one resident.
Did it have anything to do with the?
It had to do with he lives, Mr. and Mrs. Bone live in Unit 46, which is adjacent to Unit 47. There's an existing basement in the ground. And years ago, I can't remember how many years ago, it was probably back 2010, we filled in that basement, grassed it over, put trees in, and they had issue with us building. The lawsuit was dropped, and that was it. And part of the lawsuit was for him to be in favor of what we were going forward with building.
There was nothing that had to do with the variances or the setbacks or anything like that, correct?
I mean, any idea how to answer that one, I guess? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. I mean, they didn't want anything built next to them. I mean,
That's sufficient for me.
yeah, that's basically
Thank
it, you know.
Have you been up yet, sir? All right, come on up, and then I've got to cut this off. We're not gaining anything.
My name is Richard Bone, and I live at 50 Bernaya Lane. And I was the plaintiff in that lawsuit against Mr. McLeish, which was then known as JDT building. And it regarded, he had an existing basement in that place. That's how he bought the land. And he wanted to extend the variance to 10 feet away from my home. And that's why the lawsuit was brought. And it wasn't dismissed, it was settled. It was settled pursuant to the court. And there's a settlement document in Oakland County Circuit Court, and it lists exactly what the parties were supposed to do. And Mr. McLeish is building a two-story unit on lots 47 and 48, compatible, which was originally designed. That's what he had to do. That's what he agreed to do. And that's what he's not doing now, but that's a different issue. I'm neither in support or against what he's doing. That's entirely up to him. As part of that lawsuit, I could not take a position, and I'm not. I'm just explaining the truth of what that lawsuit was about. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody thinking about a motion?
Excuse me? Just for the record, that's for a variance farther along in this paperwork. That's why I just want to make the point, what Mr. Bone was just mentioning.
Okay, what I don't want to do is.
Yeah, I know, that's why I just want to make sure, yep.
Thank you.
Point well taken, because these are all separate.
Can we split these up? Can we rule on these separately, categories
A
1, 2,
motion
and 3?
for each individual request? Like, you would have 3 separate motions for this one?
Yes.
We've not done it, but I believe we can. Advice?
Question?
Split these, like there's 3 requests, split it into 3 separate motions?
Is it 3 variances on the one?
Yes.
I asked the question.
I believe that we can, but I'm,
I did get a legal opinion on that.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
why not split them?
More specific is better.
Let me ask the petitioner, give you one last chance to adjust your position. If we split this into 3 and you lose any one piece of it, what's that going to do to what you want to do in that particular case? We're driving ourselves nuts trying to be fair to everybody.
Sure.
And
Well, I would say we just go forward with what we presented. That would be my position.
whoever makes the motion, Mr. Regan, you brought it up, do you feel that we have to split them? You heard the applicant say go for it.
So you're saying if we have to split them, we can split them, or?
I believe he would,
I don't think we should. Now that I'm thinking it through, it's all one motion. My opinion.
he would like to see them split.
That's the precedence we've always set.
All the way,
One motion.
I don't-
I mean,
one motion.
I believe that makes sense, because you don't know if by changing one of those, you change the rest.
I know it's come up before
So
and
I
we've not
think,
done it.
you know, this is, when they present these, it's an entire plan. If you change one of them without one's part of it, then it might change something else inadvertently that you've already approved. Just my thoughts.
We can lessen the amount, correct?
No, we can't. Yeah.
Okay.
We can,
Okay.
we have to vote on what there is.
He is on the record, he wants to go for it as written. These motions are complicated and you haven't had to do too many of them. So, I mean, we do have some senior members that,
Should step up.
and I say that secure in the knowledge that I can't do it, so.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Law,
in the matter of ZBA case AB 201515, McLeish Building, Inc., vacant property north of Unit 32, Bernaya Lane, Sidwell numbers 09, 04, 402, 033, and 34, Units 33 and 34. I move that the petitioner's request for 3 variances from zoning ordinance number 78, 1, a 6.07-foot side yard setback variance from the required 20 feet to construct Unit 33, 13.93 feet from existing Unit 32, covered porch 20.19 from existing foundation wall, and 2, a 2-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 33, 28 feet from the rear property line, and 3, a 2.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 34, 27.5 feet from the rear property line be granted for an application date stamped received May 8th, 2025, because the petitioner indicated and did demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met in this case, and that they set forth facts that show that in this case, the petitioner does have the following practical difficulty due to the unique characteristics of this property. This property was originally a PUD back in the 1990s. From the information on the record, almost every one of the existing properties in the PUD would have been subject to some sort of variance. But according to the records, again, none of them were granted, and I have no idea why. But in the fact that these variances that the petitioner is requesting right now are not exceptional or extraordinary circumstances based upon the condition of the PUD and the property involved, and that this variance was not self-created, and the granting of this variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property in which the property is located.
I'll support the motion.
A motion on the table by Mr. Walker with support by Mr. Flood. Do we have any additional discussion by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Diane Danaskas, yes. Alec Torrigan,
Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes,
Motion passed.
the first one is passed. Next case, AB 2025-16, McLeish Building Incorporated. Vacant property, 2 parcels north of 32 Bernaya Lane, Sidwell numbers 09-04-402-035 and 036, units 35 and 36. It was postponed from the June 9th, 2025 meeting. Petitioner is seeking 4 variances from zoning ordinance 78. Number 1 is a 1-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 35, 29 feet from the rear property line. Number 2 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 36, 20 feet from proposed Unit 37. Mark one thing while I'm thinking of it here, I'm sorry. Number 3, an 11.71-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 36, 18.29 feet from an optional porch on proposed Unit 37. And number 4, a 1.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 36, 28.5 feet from the rear property line. Mr. McLeish, anything new?
Mr. Chairman, I think you summed it up pretty well.
Okay. Do I read, and why I had to stop and circle that, how many of these variances spin off a location of another one that you're going to build under this case? Where Unit 37 is going to be prompts some of the variances that are also in the same case, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it would not directly be impinging on anybody that is in the room or lives there now. It would be somebody that would buy Unit 37?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, board members.
You summed it up very well. I have to admit.
Chair,
Mr. Walker.
I think it's too late to amend my motion, but I did not indicate the fire marshal report in my motion.
Well, and that's a good point, but he did make that blanket across all of the requests for variances. You're aware that you've got to put in suppression in these units?
Yeah, so I saw the letter.
Okay, so you are aware of it.
I'm aware of his concern with that, yes.
Well, if he wants suppression, you'll suppress him, I promise.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, while the board's thinking on the matter, do we have anybody that wants to come up to speak to this case? Public comment? Thank you. We can open that door again a little bit later. These motions are deceptively difficult to craft and get right, and there are legal requirements for all of it along the line. So I always tell people, if it looks like we're just sitting here, we're normally not. We've got some people working.
I just have a quick question.
Sure again.
Do we have any information why this one is 30 feet versus the prior one being 20 foot?
This gentleman could tell you.
No, it's just consistent with the previous paperwork that we submitted on units 33 and 34.
I guess that may be in the PUD as well. And with this one, if it was shifted slightly over, then would that forego the need of a variance on 37 and 38? If that amount was lessened?
How we previously spoke about it, we're just trying to keep it consistent, the look through the neighborhood that way. And so that's, again, why we, laid them out with these dimensions.
And I guess because in this situation, it looks like it'd probably be 2 feet on each side, or sorry, 7 feet on each side if it's a 30-foot. Is that going to drastically change the visual?
Yes, it would.
Okay, thank you.
I do not.
Just looks that way.
I can have, but I don't.
The board members are thinking this over. If you are successful, when do you plan to break ground?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sitting there thinking.
While the folks are thinking about a motion here.
I saw the gentleman leaving the red hat, and I was thinking when he walked in, I go, oh, geez, my dad's here. So,
I mean, this year?
that was the goal, it might push into the springtime, just depends on weather that way. So by the time we, if this is all approved, get everything ready for permits and start, we'd see what time of year it is. I mean, we'd like to, so we'd really like to get this done, clean it up, and the paperwork's out of our office, and
You mentioned costs. I can't imagine they'll be much better in the spring than they are now.
Absolutely, but I'm looking at winter costs for building. That's, you know, if we can put foundations in before and with the other work we've got in front of us, that way. But no, it's, you know, we'd like to get it done and, you know,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Walker,
motion.
please.
In matter of ZBA case AB 202516, McLeish Building, Inc., vacant property, 2 parcels north of Unit 32, Bernia Lane, Sidwell numbers 0904, 402, 035, and 036, Units 35 and 36. I move that the petitioner's request for 4 variances from zoning ordinance number 78, 1, a 1-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 35, 29 feet from the rear property line, and 2, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 36, 20 feet from proposed Unit 37, and 3, 11.71 foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 36, 18.29 feet from an optional covered porch on proposed Unit 37, and 4, a 1.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 36, 28.5 feet from the rear property line be granted for an application date stamped to receive May 8, 2025, because the petitioner did demonstrate that following standards for variances have been met in this case, in that they set forth that the petitioner has shown the practical difficulty due to the unique characteristics of the property and not related to general conditions of the property. As I noted in my previous motion, this was a PUD from the 1990s that apparently did not receive any variances for the, I believe, 64 units, I may be wrong, that were constructed beginning back in 1990. And therefore, these are exceptional, ordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property that do not apply to other properties in the area, and that this is a specific PUD, and that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right possessed by other property in the same zone or vicinity, and the variance was not self-created.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second the motion. The motion maker would also include the fire marshal's paperwork that was submitted on May 10th, 2021, that will be conditioned upon these units getting permitted.
I will amend my motion.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Walker, supported with amendment by Mr. Flood. Anything additional by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
John Walker.
Yes.
Ralph Torrigan.
Yes.
Mike Flood.
Yes.
Diane Janowskis, yes. Dan Bill.
Yes, motion passes. You're 2 for 2.
thank you.
Next, AB 2025-17, McLeish Building Incorporated, vacant property south of 39 Benai Lane, Sidwell, number 09-04-402-037 and 038, units 37 and 38. Postponed from June 9th, 2025. Petitioner is seeking 6 variances. From zoning ordinance 78, number 1, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 37, 20 feet from proposed unit 36. Number 2 is an 11.71 side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on unit 37, 18.29 feet from an optional porch on proposed unit 36. Number 3 is a 0.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on unit 37, 29.5 feet from the rear property line. Number 4 is a 9.03-foot side yard setback variance from the required 25 feet to construct unit 38, a 15.97 feet from existing unit 39, covered porch, 22.20 feet from existing foundation wall. Number 5 is a 1.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 38 at 28.5 foot from the rear property line. Number 6, a 9.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 38, 20.5 feet from the rear property line. Mr. McLeish, again, it appears, and correct me please if I'm wrong, that most of these variances will come to pass because of buildings you hope to build on this piece,
Yes, sir.
but not all of them?
Correct.
Explain, please, for everybody's benefit, the ones that won't. What are you going to bump up against, that's already there?
Yeah, all right, so like between units 38 and 39, the way we came up with laying that there, again, it's consistent with the streetscape and the rearscape of the homes, along with down the center line of the proposed area. With this one, we're basically 22 feet at the back. At the midpoint, we're at 24 and change, and then 35 foot lower, 35 foot at the front. And so with this is, what we did is we tried to lay them, all 6 of the units out to where, like for instance, between 32 and 33, we're a little wider at the backyard than these. And so we basically kind of took an average between them. So that's how we came up with this layout.
Thank you. Board members.
When I look at the rendering on the map here for this units, I see that they're almost a curve of the road there, and they're kind of cantered to the rear towards the golf course side, and that's that one variance, those 2 variances in there you need because they're kind of like a pie shape.
Correct.
It's not like the other units were straight across. I can understand now why they had those extra variances in there.
Good point. I didn't think of that.
Do we have any public that would like to speak to this matter specifically? They came to talk to this. Seeing none, you're good. Seeing none, we'll open it up if something crops up here.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion on this one if there's no more comments.
Please do.
All right. Give Mr. Walker a break?
You might appreciate it.
I don't think so. In the matter of ZBA case AB 2025-17, McLeish Building, Inc., vacant property south of Unit 39, Burnell Lane, Sidwell, numbers 09, 04, 402, 037, and 038, Units 37 and 38. I move that the petitioner request 6 variances from zoning ordinance number 78. 1, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 37, 20 feet from proposed Unit 36. Number 2, 11.71-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 37, 18.29 feet from an optional covered porch on Unit 36, proposed Unit 36. 3, a 0.5-foot rear yard setback variance when required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 37, 29.5 feet from the rear property line. Number 4, a 9.03-foot side yard setback variance when required 25 feet to construct Units 38, 15.97 feet from existing Unit 39 covered porch, 22.20 feet from existing foundation wall. 5, a 1.5-foot rear yard setback variance from required 30 feet to construct Unit 38, 28.5 feet from the rear property line. And 6, a 9.5-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 38, 20.5 feet from the rear property line. Be granted for an application date stamp received May 8th, 2025, because the petitioner did demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met in this case and that they set forth facts which show that in this case, the petitioner does show the following practical difficulty due to, particularly to the unique characteristics of the property and the general property in the surrounding area. Due to the planned unit development that was established in the 1990s, and the building department can find no other variance requests to develop what has already been developed there without going through the proper channels like this developer is doing today. The following are exceptional or extraordinary circumstance conditions applicable to the property involved, the other properties in the same district. These lots were purchased by this developer and to be buildable, and it meets almost the criteria of what's already exists in that community. The variance or variances is necessary for preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights possessed by other property in the same zone or vicinity, or a smaller variance will be sufficient. And the petitioner has demonstrated that he has done his due diligence on trying to make this set up where it's compatible with all the existing units that have been there for the past 20, 25 years. The granting of the variances or modifications will not be material detrimental to public welfare or materially injurious to the property or improvements in such zone, is that developer has shown through his due diligence that he is trying to make this compatible and to help retain their property values in that community. And the variance was not self-created. This was created, development was created back, at least in the 1990s, by a previous developer. And also, one more thing. Want to include the fire marshal's letter date stamp received May 10, 2021, pertaining to approved with the requirements as listed on the document for suppression of the units.
A motion on the floor by Mr. Flood, support by Mrs. Zanaskis. Anything additional by the board? Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Diane Janowskis, yes. Don Walker.
Yes.
Mike Flood.
Yes.
Al Torgin.
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Next, number D, AB 2025-18, McLeish Building Incorporated, vacant property north of Unit 40, Bernaya Lane, Sidwell, numbers 0904, 402, 041, and 042. Units 41 and 42, again postponed from June 9, 2025 meeting. Petitioner seeking 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78, a 6.5-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 41, 23.5 feet from covered porch on existing unit 40. Number 2, an 8.6-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct a covered porch on Unit 41, 21.40 feet from the rear property line. Number 3 is a 7-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 42, 23 feet from covered porch on existing Unit 43. Mr. McLeish, these appear to be a little bit tighter on otherwise existing units?
Actually, they're very consistent with what we proposed on the other ones as well. We're around 7 foot for a variance from the, so we got roughly 23 feet between the units at the narrowest point. We're at 30 to 35 foot. We're at 30 foot on the rear, 35 foot on the front, and that's consistent with the other side where 42 and 43 are as well.
Thank you. Board members,
Chair, I'll make a motion.
let's stand by just a second. Do we have anybody in the audience that came to speak to this particular case? Seeing none, Ms. Zanaskis, you have the floor.
Thank you. In the matter of ZBA case, AB 2025-18, McLeish Building Incorporated, vacant property north of Unit 40, Bernaya Lane, Sidwell, numbers 0904, 402, 041, and 042, Units 41 and 42. I move that the petitioner's request for 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78. 1, a 6.5 side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 41, 23.5 feet from covered porch existing Unit 40. 2, an 8.6 rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct a covered porch on Unit 41, 21.40 from rear property line. And number 3, a 7-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 42, 23 feet from the covered porch on existing Unit 43. Be granted for an application date stamped and received May 16th, 2025, because the petitioner did demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met in this case, and that they set forth facts which show that in this case, the petitioner does show the following practical difficulty due to the PUD and its requirements and the unique property that these are being built on, the fact that there were no previous variances requested. The following are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zone. These lots were purchased as is, and this is, houses need to be constructed within these varied properties that are unique in their shape and size. The variance or variances are necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights due to, by the property in the same zone or vicinity, or a smaller variance would be sufficient. The granting of this variance or modification will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or to improvements in such zone or district in which the property is located. The builder has done his due diligence to make these as compatible as possible with the community. The variance is not self-created. They were purchased, these lots were purchased as is and had no variances previously. Also note that there is a letter from the fire marshal, which the builder will comply.
I'll offer support. We have a motion on the floor by Mrs. Zanaskis, supported by myself. Do we have any additional discussion by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mike Flood.
Yes.
Diane Danaskas, yes. Don Walker.
Yes.
Alec Torrigan.
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes. That one passes to number E, rather. AB 2025-19, McLeish Building Incorporated, vacant property between 116 Sand Hills Lane and 134 Sand Hills Lane. Said will numbers 0904, 402, 067, and 68. Units 67 and 68, again postponed from June 9th. Petitioner seeking 4 variances from zoning ordinance 78, number 1, a 3.75 side yard. Excuse me. Where was I? 3.75. How far had I gotten? I literally dropped it. Number 1, a 3.75-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 67, 26.25 feet from the covered porch on existing Unit 66. Number 2, a 0.7-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 67 to 29.3 feet from the rear property line. Number 3 is a 3.58-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct Unit 68, 26.42 feet from the covered porch on existing Unit 69. Number 4 is a 1-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on Unit 68, 29 feet from the rear property line. Mr. McLeish, do you have anything additional for us on this?
No, sir.
Board members, Mr. Flood?
Is this the one with the basement that's already existing?
No, sir.
Which one? Okay,
That one is 47 and 48 with the existing basement.
we're over here.
Yeah, in the back.
We're over here on 67.
Correct.
That'll be
Gotcha.
the next one, I think.
And this one for the streetscape, similar as the previous conversations, is, we just laid out to be consistent. This one, we just split the middle between the existing units on either side.
Thank you for that clarification.
Do we have any public comment on this one? Anybody want to come up and have their 3 minutes on this particular case? Seeing none, we'll hold that open. Board members.
I'll make motion.
Please.
In the matter of ZBA case AB-2025-19 McLeish Building, Inc., vacant property between 116 Sand Hills Lane and 134 Sand Hills Lane, Sidwell, numbers 09-04-402-067 and 068, units 67 and 68. I'll move that the petitioner's request for 4 variances from zoning ordinance number 78. Number 1, a 3.75-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30-foot to construct unit 67, 26.25 feet from the covered porch on existing unit 66. Number 2, a 0.7-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on unit 67, 29.3 feet from the rear property line. Number 3, a 3.58-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30-foot to construct unit 68, 26.42 feet from the covered porch on existing unit 69. Number 4, a 1-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct an optional covered porch on unit 68, 29 feet from the rear property line. Be granted for an application date stamped received May 16th, 2025, because the petitioner did demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met in this case. Number 1, the petitioner shows that the practical difficulty exists based on the prior PUD development plans and no prior variances being requested or approved, that the development is consistent with that in the property, and that it will not be material detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or improvements in the zone, that exceptional and extraordinary circumstances applicable to the property exist based on the purchase lot with the no prior variances and the shorter setbacks on prior existing lots, and that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property right possessed to build the residences on the lot consistent with that in the development. And lastly, that the variance was not self-created, again, based on the PUD development in the 1990s and no prior variances being requested or approved based on the record. And also conditioned on the May 10th, 2021 fire marshal suppression letter, it be complied with.
I'll support.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Turigian, support by Mr. Flood. Anything additional by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alec Turigian,
Yes.
Diane Denassis, yes. Mike Flood,
Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes. Motion passes, and for the record, that was Mr. Turigian's very first motion as a member of this board, and he did a fine job. So you're past there. Next, we have AB 2025-20, McLeish Building Incorporated, vacant property north of Unit 46, Bernaya Lane, Sidwell, number 09-04-402-047 and 048, units 47 and 48, again postponed from June 9th, 2025. Petitioner is seeking 5 variances from zoning ordinance 78. Number 1 is a 1.34-foot front yard setback variance from the required 25 feet to construct a 2-unit condominium 23.66 feet from the front property line, units 47 and 48. Number 2 is a 16.24 feet side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 47, 13.76 feet from the existing unit 46. Number 3 is a 5.3-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 47, 24.7 feet from the rear property line. Number 4 is a 12.84-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 48, 17.16 feet from existing unit 49. And number 5 is a 1.1-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 48, 28.9 feet from the rear property line. Mr. McLeish, anything for us?
Mr. Chairman, this one has a existing concrete basement that was mentioned earlier tonight. And so therefore, we were show the variances in order to build on the existing concrete foundation that's in the ground through here.
Not being a builder myself, how certain are you that that basement has maintained its integrity underground all this time?
Well, I'll step back then. We weren't asking to, so if we uncover it and it has failed, is it deteriorated, we would request a permit to demolition it and to put it back in the exact same place.
Okay. Thank you, board members.
And this unit 47 and 48, is this a two-story one as well?
Yes, it is, correct. It's the existing plan that was there. The basement was previously permitted by the Township of Orion. I couldn't remember the exact year, but I want to say that it was probably late 90s, 1990s.
I understand now, this is the one that was settled in court,
Yes, sir.
and you will be building as the court rendered.
Yes, sir, per the settlement, correct. Yes, sir. Nothing is to be modified on it.
Do we have anybody that waited to speak to this particular case? Come on up, this gentleman will. Come on up. He'll step away,
Yes, sir.
introduce yourself, and you're off. Good to go.
Okay if I leave this?
No, it's just a quick question that I wanted to ask.
Well, come on up. We got a way of doing this. Just,
We got 2 hours left, so go ahead.
Oh, sorry, guys. Mary Herbert at 32 Bernaya. And my question is, the unit is already planned out here.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess my big question is, why do you need a different variance than what it was before? Because it seems like you're coming closer, like to my unit, and I just wondered what would change on that?
Are you here?
Yes.
Oh, no, it's the basement, just so you know, here, let me just show you. This is, so, there's your unit right here, unit 49, okay? So all these black highlighted lines, okay? These are all the points of the basement that is in the ground right now. And there's a basement underneath all that dirt. We had exposed it a few years ago, and we had the licensed surveyor as-built all these points. And I believe we came back and covered some, I think some maybe are still exposed, but all these points are the exact location of the existing basement that's in the ground right now.
Okay, so, but the variance means that your property, you're coming closer to me, doesn't it?
Well, it also, you could look at, your unit was even built closer this way. So there's
Oh, I
different
read
ways.
it like-
I know.
the
what
other
you're
way
saying,
is
but I'm
better,
just-
yeah,
I'm just saying there's two ways to look at it. you know?
Oh, okay.
So, and originally, okay, just so everybody knows, where unit 4950 was, there actually was a basement there, but we removed that, okay? And another builder built that, okay? This is,
Okay,
you know, a long time ago, that basement was removed
okay.
there, and so that unit, your unit was built that way, so, but just know that everything that you see in these lines are all what's in the ground right now, minus the garage footings, okay?
Okay, so I'm here.
There's your
and so-
porch.
Yeah, and
Yep.
here's this, and so it's right in here that you're
Right,
coming
correct.
in more?
Correct,
Okay,
correct. There's 17 feet between the corner of the porch and the side of the unit right
and there'll still be enough room to,
Yeah, and you're 44 feet at the back, from your back corner to here?
yeah, I wasn't concerned about the back, it was just the narrow space in between there as far as the closeness.
Right, correct, correct.
So that's what I wondered, so, but originally, but nothing has changed here, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, once again, tell me why, then are you taking extra space?
We're not, it's just, this is already here.
Oh, okay.
The
Okay.
basement's already built.
Yes,
So prior to you moving in, you could see the whole basement here.
that's what I heard.
Yeah,
Okay,
so there's just dirt covering the basement right now.
okay,
And all those trees, we planted those, and obviously they're growing up
they're king size.
now. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
You got a business card with you? Do you have a business card with you?
No, I do not. In my truck, I do.
I was going to suggest if you did, it might be a nice idea to give the lady one in case she has any more questions.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay? Come on up, ma'am. No, this lady here.
Good evening, Jerry Ann Ryman from 150 Bernaya. Quick question on this property, being that there is currently trees that are located there. I'm wondering if there's any plan.
Well, I was actually planning on relocating
Yes,
I was planning on just bringing the trees
lovely, lovely, thank you.
Come on up, sir.
John Klein from 33 Bernaya. I have a couple comments, I think that, from some misleading comments earlier. First of all, on the footprint for the buildings, naturally it's smaller if it's 1,800 square feet versus 2,300 square feet. And on the existing buildings, there's a more prominent drive. So that would increase the footprint of that particular building. And on the 16-foot side variance, where you have 13.76 feet left, I can stretch my hands out and take over more than half of that distance. So somebody's house next door is going to be less than that area. And the comment about condos either under construction or already constructed, recently constructed, about single family. But all of those buildings look alike. None of them are drastically different than what is being proposed here. If you go down, I know where that new condo is being built on Lapeer Road. I see it every day. I have not seen anything different from any building that's going up. Here, I see something drastically different than what is currently constructed. When I first moved into this condo, and the first HOA meeting I went to, the then president said, when we build out this area, every condo that we build will look like what you're living in. I don't see that happening now. That's my comment. Thank you.
You. Anything additional? Seeing none.
I have one question for Mr. McLeish. Is the reason that this is a little bit off-center from what would be 49 and 46 just because that's where the basement's located?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I would assume that basement was probably built back in the 90s when the other units were probably developed.
Yes, correct.
That was the current setback when they put that in there.
Correct. There was actually a basement on 49 and 50 as well. That was removed and rebuilt there. With a different floor plan than the
Yeah,
existing.
I understand the difference. Sure.
Yeah.
additional by the board?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Damascus.
In the matter of ZBA case AV 2025-20, McLeish Building Incorporated, vacant property north of Unit 46, Bernaya Lane, Sidwell numbers 0904, 402, 047, and 048, Units 47, 48. I move that the petitioner's request for 5 variances from zoning ordinance 78, 1, a 1.34-foot front yard setback variance from the required 25 feet to construct a 2-unit condominium 23.66 feet from the front property line, units 47 and 48. 2, a 16.24-foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 47, 13.76 feet from existing unit 46. 3, a 5.3-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 47, 24.7 feet from the rear property line. 4, a 12.84 foot side yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 48, 17.16 feet from the existing unit 49. And 5, a 1.1-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 30 feet to construct unit 48, 28.9 feet from the rear property line be granted for an application date stamped received May 16th, 2025. Because the petitioner did determine that the following standards for variances have been met in this case, and they set forth facts which show that in this case, the petitioner does show the following difficulty. Again, this is a PUD from the 1990s. There were no previous variances granted to these properties. Also, in this particular case, the builder is complying with a court order for the location dimensions of the building. The following are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances applicable to the property. Once again, this is a requirement from the court that this be built according to specific standards that must be met. The variance or variances are necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the substantial property right possessed by other properties in the same vicinity or smaller same vicinity. And 4, the granting of the variance modification will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or district in which the property is located. The variance was not self-created. These were purchased as are, again, once again, no previous variances and according to the PUD requirements. Also, there is a condition that we have a letter from, a fire suppression letter from the Township Fire Marshal, and the builder agrees to adhere to those requirements.
I'll second the motion, but would like to add that whether it be a court order or a settlement agreement, that whichever governing document it is, that it be complied with.
We have a motion on the floor by Mrs. Damascus with support by Mr. Turigian. Do we have anything additional by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
John Walker.
Yes.
Alec Torrigan.
Yes.
Mike Flood.
Yes.
Diane Damascus, yes. Dan Durham.
Yes. Motion passes. Good to go.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, board members.
Be good to your neighbors, and if they have questions, try to make them feel as good as you can.
Absolutely. We always like to work with everybody. Thank you.
And I want to mention to the folks before they get out of here, I appreciate, in the name of the board, your attitude with us, your willingness to show the board the respect that it took to get this motion, these cases moving forward. I know some of you are leaving and say, that's not what I wanted, but you still conducted yourselves in a great way, and you made our job easier. Thank you. Do we have any freelance public comment? Anything anybody wants to say? That would be no. Communications, anybody have anything?
Not tonight.
Okay, Mr. Walker?
Nothing.
Nothing. Committee reports, equally nothing.
Nope, nothing.
Member comments, I just want to thank the board and Mr. Goodlow. It does take a bunch when it's something like this. Little pieces put together the key and get it all done.
I'd also like to add our planning and zoning department's excellent work on getting all this, submitting all this information to us.
That is true, they're always the first link in the chain. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we're done.